Yep, I was wrong. The Batman, all the spoilers. Let's go. What's up, guys? Welcome to all the spoilers for The Batman. I just got out of watching this movie a second time. So glad I did. I knew, and I stated this in my first review, this is a movie that's going to require a second viewing just because of the length of it. There's a lot going on with the villains in this movie. And so this viewing, I was able to push aside the spectacle of the movie and just really absorb the plot. And I think the biggest reason I wanted to go into this second viewing is to really pay attention more to the Riddler, to Paul Dano, because Paul Dano is easily one of the best actors working today. And so when I walked out of the first viewing, I had like a little bit of a fog in my head. And I thought to myself, wait, maybe I'm missing something here. Maybe I need to go back and give this another viewing, because Paul Dano doesn't just give you a lackluster performance. And the biggest mistake I made with this movie, I think, is I compared it to The Dark Knight. And more specifically, I compared it to Heath Ledger's The Joker. Do not do that when you go into this movie. Heath Ledger's Joker and Paul Dano's Riddler are two completely different animals. And the last thing you would want the Riddler to be is the Joker in this movie. He's not. And, you know, going into his backstory more, and I guess that's a good place to dive in, because usually when I do spoiler reviews, I don't go chronologically because that can get kind of boring. So I just kind of bounce all over the place. So I guess let's start with the Riddler, because really the Riddler was my biggest takeaway, and he was the glue that tied everything else together in this movie. He's an interesting study because he is vengeance just like Batman is vengeance. So he's completely delusional along the way. And then there's that great scene at the end where Batman confronts him at Arkham after he's already been caught. And by the way, that was all part of the plan. He wanted to get caught because then after that, you know, he's already created this online army to finish his job. You know, in his delusional mind, he tells Batman, you know, you were part of this. Thank you. You helped me through this. He literally thinks that Batman was willingly helping him out through this. And Batman starts questioning himself. Like, even though that wasn't my mindset, did I help him anyway? Whether your intentions were good or bad, the deed has been done. And the Riddler has really completed his mission. So that's the conflict that we see on Batman's face when he's like banging into the mirror. You know, he's angry. He's questioning, damn, did I lead this guy to accomplish his mission along the whole way? You know, I showed up exactly where he wanted me to show up. And, you know, he was just a cog in the wheel. But I think they nailed the Riddler in this movie because he wasn't front and center. He was kind of pulling the strings in the background. And he doesn't even have that much dialogue. But when he does, you know, like at the funeral scene, every line of dialogue that Paul Dano has in this movie, it counts. You know, he makes it count. And I think sometimes less is more, because it makes the movie more impactful. It makes him more of a mystery. You know, he's not as upfront as, like, say, the Joker. But everything he says, you pay attention because he's completely insane. And we find out that he was an orphan, just like Bruce, but they were from two completely different sides of the coin. You know, Bruce was this rich kid. Granted, he lost his parents, so it's tragic, but his living conditions were completely different than the Riddler's. And so there's that great scene where he's telling Bruce, you don't understand. You have no idea what I went through. And really, Gotham is what made me the way I am. And, you know, just to flip over to the set design of this movie in Gotham, I'm guessing they filmed some of this in New York City, because, you know, you see some of the buildings of New York. But I think more than any other movie, this movie really showcases just how much of a cesspool Gotham is. And, you know, the opening and closing narration that Batman has, stating that I don't even know if what I'm doing is making a difference. You know, but I guess the message here is that I'm going to at least try. That's what he does. He at least tries to make a difference, and he tries to save Gotham. But even he knows Gotham's probably way too far gone, and there's no way I can I can, I guess, tackle this beast. And I love how this movie opens and closes with a narration from Bruce, from Batman. Now, I'm going to echo some of my thoughts from my previous review, especially concerning Batman. I mean, guys, I gave this movie pretty much, in my mind, like a 3.8 out of 5 when I first saw it. So it's still a good movie. After this viewing, it's up to like a 4.5 out of 5. Okay, I have a couple little issues here, but yeah, so much better. But you know, echoing what I said in the first review, Robert Pattinson is Batman. Like, he is the best version of the character up to date. I still think I prefer Ben Affleck as the older, more war-torn, mature Bruce and Batman. I think Ben Affleck has the look completely down, the brutality. So it's like apples and oranges trying to compare those two, because this is two different versions of the character. This is the young Bruce that's been in the game for 2 years. And by the way, I freaking love that this was not another origin story. We weren't finding out how Bruce became Batman. You know, this was, 2 years in, and we're thrust right into this case. And it's a detective story all the way through. I think more than it being a superhero movie, that is the main focus of the movie, to be just a detective story. You could take the superhero out of the movie and just put regular dudes in here, kind of like what they do with Zodiac and Seven, and it would work. If I had to poke at anything, I will say, even though I loved the aesthetic, how it looks like Seven, a David Fincher movie, and Zodiac, it almost borrows a little bit too much from Seven, especially once they get into the Riddler's apartment and he has all those journals. And it was like I was watching the scene with John Doe all over again. And I was like, nah, that might be a little bit too much on the nose, but it was still highly, highly entertaining. Two of my biggest complaints from the previous watch was Carmine Falcone and the Penguin. This time around, I still kind of feel the same about the Penguin, even though the Penguin, like the Riddler, isn't in the movie that much. But the scenes that he's in, you forget that it's freaking Colin Farrell. He's that effective. And he's probably the most entertaining, especially, with the freaking car chase and everything. That scene is just brilliant. But this time around, Carmine Falcone really shined through for me much more than the first viewing. He is a big part of the plot of this movie, and Bruce Wayne really questioning the role of his father Thomas. Carmine Falcone owned the police. He owned everything, so it would almost be impossible for him to not have some kind of relationship with Thomas Wayne. Thomas Wayne really just wanted to cover up that his wife was like in this mental ward, and at the end of the day, it was just for his wife. But he didn't want to kill anybody. But his biggest mistake was having any kind of trust in Carmine Falcone, because he's just going to dispose of them, which is what he does. And so this creates this fog in Bruce's mind after he finds out all this. And at first he thinks that his father is a corrupt guy. And I guess the lesson here is that nobody's perfect. Even the best people with the best intentions, like Barack Obama. I'm sure Barack Obama had a day there in his life where he probably wasn't as proud as he could have been. Everybody has a dark side, and I like that message in this. Also, Zoe Kravitz, absolutely fantastic as Catwoman. The only problem I have here, and it's not her fault, is the plot is very similar to what they did with Selina in The Dark Knight Rises. If you pay attention, her friend, the girl that I guess she was kind of saving, her roommate, she was trying to help. It's kind of the same story beats as The Dark Knight Rises. And her friend ends up getting killed. And so her whole motivation here is vengeance. She wants to kill. Luckily, Batman is in her life and is constantly reminding her that, hey, if you go that far, if you cross that line, then you're going to become the thing that you're trying to kill. I think making Batman not kill people is one thing, but explaining why it's important for Batman to not kill is the big thing here. And they drive that message home in spades. Batman, he completely kicks ass throughout this movie, but he never crosses that line. He might paralyze somebody, which is another debate to be had, but still, he never crosses that line. And I like that really they had rules about this movie, and they drew lines in the sand. And they said, hey, do we want Batman to kill in this or not? And I'm glad that they went that route. Now, before I close this spoiler review off, I will say, having the Joker at the end of the movie was a mistake. I don't think they needed to put that in there. And also, I'm thinking to myself, like, who the hell is this guy? You know, I guess I could look it up on IMDb, like who they had to play the Joker, but I wasn't that impressed with the performance, even though it was really short. You only got a glimpse into it. Hold on, guys. I just found out that it's Barry Keoghan playing the Joker at the end of this movie. Scratch everything I just said. We're good here, okay? I don't think they should have included it, but knowing that Barry Keoghan could be playing the Joker, yeah, we're good here. When you throw in some kind of fan service, because that's really what it is, let's throw in some nice Joker fan service, because we always have to link Batman to the Joker. I think they should have kept that out. We didn't need that. They even did that at the end of Batman Begins. But, you know, closing on a major positive note, this film is a cinematic masterpiece. It's amazing. The runtime, yes, it's a slow burn, and I can see how some people might get bored with it, but once you get locked in, you know, really like locked into the story, it kind of flies by. I like that this movie, this Batman movie, feels completely different than any other Batman movie before. And we need that, you know? I don't want the same thing. And I think even with the sequels to this movie, this one will stand on its own. What Matt Reeves was able to pull off cinematically here is a masterstroke, just beautiful. And you gotta mention Michael Giacchino's score. Like, I've never heard of Michael Giacchino, but his work in this movie is probably the best musical composition of the year. I would be shocked if anything beats this. And it's new, you know, this isn't any theme that we've heard before. It does sound kind of similar to like Darth Vader's Death March from Empire Strikes Back a little bit. It's not just that one main theme, but you know, there's quite a few different little musical touches along the way that make this movie so memorable. You know, and it really highlights that film noir aspect of it. So, new rating, Trapped on a Freaking Island for sure. So glad I gave this a second viewing. If you only watched this once and you're a little on the fence about it or even didn't like it, put yourself in a good mood, okay? Go take a pee break, but watch this again. I think you might have a different experience with it the second time. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day. And on Fridays, we do Free For Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on my socials. Support me on Patreon. Buy me a coffee. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Drumdum out.